Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and over the past few weeks we've been trying to cover all of the newest class changes over for the patch 11.1. Though for the most part on the channel, we've covered classes from an angle of dungeons and raids and PvE content, but not as much as from PvP. And it did get me personally wondering as to which classes are looking the best and the most improved heading into patch 11.1 from the PvP perspective. Which of the different playstyles are getting some of the best and newest PvP talents, and which classes are getting some of the better tier sets that are likely to result in some of the best bursts out there. I'm a sucker for burst in PvP. Being able to line up the best combination out there to wipe out the other target within a handful of abilities is just super satisfying to me. So for today's video, I wanted to list off all of the classes that are looking like they're going to be some of the burstiest options heading forward, at least so far when it comes to the patch 11.1 over on the PTR. None of these changes are by no means final, and there will likely be some more tuning in the future, but right now, these are the classes that have the best burst out there. As always, if you guys want to see more regular updates for the patch 11.1 over on the PTR, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe, but otherwise, let's dive into this list. One of the standout classes, one of the first ones, and I'll structure this video in somewhat of an alphabet. Now for this video, I am going to try to structure it in a somewhat alphabetical order, but the last class I do want to leave in as a bit of a surprise. At least when it comes to when we did some testing, I found it the most surprising. But one of the first stands out that may actually be really good is the Frost Death Knight. Mostly not really thanks to the tier set, which is fairly decent, but it's mostly thanks to the new PvP talent of Death's Cold Embrace. Pillar of Frost grants you this empowered version of Remorseless Winter, increasing its damage by 1000%. It's ready as bone 50%, but it does greatly slow down your movement as a Frosty Death Knight, trading out some amazing bursts for a lot less mobility. Though with the way that Death Knights are structured with so many different grips, but also a stun that they can apply on a target, there's already plenty of ways for a Death Knight to hold a target close by. Not only is Death's Cold Embrace will be fairly strong within pure single target damage, but it also will cleave everything around you as well, which should give Frost Death Knights a little bit more of this deadlier AoE presence, and I cannot wait to see just how strong it's going to be once this ability hits the live realms when it comes to big group content such as BG Blitz, for instance. However, if you are looking for the most amount of burst heading into patch 11.1, the caster classes seem to be really in a much better spot in order to deliver additional bursts with their tier sets. As casters, most range classes play around a jackpot mechanic, which means either they can randomly proc a very strong effect that can do a ton of damage, or when they pop major cooldowns, they can guarantee that effect, which allows for some burst synergies to really shine for casters more than melee. And Bumpkin is one of those specs that can proc a random mushroom under a target, but also greatly increase the output of the Starfall and Starfire against enemies afflicted by their mushrooms, which can be easily procced with just pressing Incarnation or Celestial Alignment. In comparison, most melee classes do not have as strong of a bursty tier set in 11.1, as all of them play around a mechanic of win streak, whereas casters can guarantee the jackpot. Melee just build that win streak slowly as they use abilities, and then certain greater damage abilities can consume the winning streak, removing the damage buff. So most melee are going to have a more of a sustain based gameplay than casters, which are looking to be a bit more bursty. Though certain playstyles such as the Feral Druid, if they get lucky on a couple of those bites not getting consumed during things like Convoke, for instance, that could be an incredible amount of additional bonus damage, up to 30% more bite damage within PvP, with additional interaction with Apex Predator, which rewards you even more burst through a little bit of extra RNG. Another class spec that's also seen a bunch of bursts is the Evoker, both Augmentation and Devastation. Dev's tier set around Jackpot allows him to proc a free Shattering Star, which functions exactly like the talent of Shattering Star, giving you a damage window to burst down an enemy target. Plus, with a couple of changes to Flame Shaper, it looks like they're really trying to open up that fiery playstyle with a bit of synergy between Fire Breath, but then of course you also have the Scale Commander playstyle, which seems to be a very much beam oriented and focused. And even as explosive as Devastation can be, the biggest burst goes to Augmentation, at least right now as of this moment, as their Jackpot tier set allows them to proc upheavals and then also further empower the essence damage of their eruptions, doing millions of damage at a time to a singular target with a very simple and an easy setup to pull off, which may actually give him a bit of this bite and quite a decent bit of potent PvP burst heading forward. For the class of Hunter, Marksmanship is getting a bunch of new fun tools in order to output some of the biggest bursts available, and Marksmanship may actually be going back to that big burst synergy like it used to have for previous expansions and previous seasons. Not only are they getting a whole new redefined talent tree with a bird that could further empower the damage of some of your abilities such as your aim shot, but also you get talents like double tap making a return, where both true shot or volley grants you double tap, where next aim shot or rapid fire is now going to either fire a second time or fire at additional shots during the rapid fire channel, which is a huge portion of your overall burst output. Combine that together with a new tier set that allows him with the force set when consuming lock and load procs to also fire explosive shot at 300% effectiveness, which does mean you'll need to get yourself a little bit of a setup, as you do need that proc of lock and load to chain off of that big double tap window. But if you can pull it off together, the amount of damage you can do in a very short moment can be impressive. And it's definitely right now making Marksmanship look quite deadly heading forward for the patch 11.1, at least so far on the PTR. When it comes to the Mage tier sets, all of them are playing around jackpot, though not all of them are treated the same. Frost Mages are getting a random proc of this Frostbolt Flurry that they can apply to multiple targets. Arcane Mages are getting a 5% damage amp and some resources and some other talent procs, while Fire Mages are getting raw 15% damage every time they press Combustion. So 50% damage increase during a 100% crit damage combo. You can combine together a variety of instant cast abilities, such as a big meteor while playing Frostfire, or potentially a Frostfire Bolt together with a Frostfire Empowerment, or even the new talent of Ignition Burst that allows you to have an instant cast Heat Shimmer that can deal additional damage to combine as part of this burst combination. Elemental Shaman tier set follows the same steps as the Fire Mage tier set, as whenever you pop Jackpot, you get a 20% damage buff for all of your basic combat abilities like Chain Lightning, Tempest, Lava Burst, and Lightning Bolt, and that can be easily procced anytime you summon your Fire or Storm Elemental, allowing for a very simple yet efficient burst combo. And while most melee classes don't have the best tier sets, the tier set for Enhancement Shaman can provide them with additional damage, as Winning Streak increases the damage of things like Storm Strike, Lava Lash, Doom Winds, and eventually with a Force set, even the damage of your Crash Lightning. Combined together with incredible damage from Doom Winds, plus Ghost Wolves for damage amp, plus Ascendance for massive wind strikes, and as long as you don't get to consume your Winning Streak, the additional extra damage you can output during that combo can be absolutely amazing. When it comes to Warlocks, I think Destruction's tier set looks incredibly interesting for PvP, as whenever you proc Jackpot, not only do you send out a flurry of demon fires at a target, but with a force set, it also can increase your mastery by 3%, nothing crazy. However, it does also change it so that your spells will gain maximum benefit from the mastery of chaotic energies. For this, we have to first understand what Mastery of Destruction does. Basically, it has a lot of RNG component where it can, depending on your mastery, can either give you a small bit of damage increase, but also a high damage increase, sometimes even doubling on its overall value, though it always fluctuates as it's a random amount of additional damage that every ability can gain. With a tier set, going into full mastery build allows you to lock in the highest and maximum damage output during that big window, mostly around your big infernal, which grants you a dedicated 2-minute cooldown, allowing you to output the most amount of damage during a very short sequence. And with how many combo effects and instant cast gesture can play around with, it allows you to unleash the most potent version of the Destruction's heavy bursty kit. Like most melee, Fury Warrior's tier set isn't the best as it's completely RNG, increasing the damage of your Rampage, with Rampage having a chance to completely cancel out that ability, with every time you gain Winning Streak, you have a chance to either buff your Bloodthirst or your Raging Blow. Without a lot of ways for you to control the tier set, we can't specifically rely on it. However, if you do roll lucky enough to buff both your Bloodthirst, you can synergize it together with a brand new version of Titan's Torment that allows you during Avatar to use Rampage more regularly, but also Bloodthirst with a much shorter cooldown, interchanging between Bloodthirst, Rampage, to be able to output the most amount of damage in a short window as a Fury Warrior. Combine that together with every single talent that can buff the damage of your Bloodthirst, rather Bloodbath, during this burst window, and Fury Warriors Priest can hit you for up to 3 million damage with critical strikes guaranteed back to back, which is going to make him incredibly bursty going forward. Protection Warrior is another spec of warrior that actually seen quite a bit of burst so far within War Within expansion, where we normally don't see tanks really being that competitive within endgame content. Protection Warriors are actually seeing quite a bit of play on the latter, and what really helps them out is the amount of burst damage this spec can achieve all in a single short window with some of the hardest hitting abilities out there for a tanking class. Well, with their tier set, they're actually getting even more damage. As they take damage, they have a chance to activate their wall for a few seconds, but also gain luck of the draw, further increasing their damage by 15% on top of their bursty kit as is. But also, gaining luck of the draw allows the shield slams to have a 75% additional chance to critically strike against targets, further reducing the cooldown of shield charge, which will allow prop warriors to turn the tables on their aggressors easily, unleashing the most amount of damage with almost nearly guaranteed shield slam crits. Now, another spec that actually surprised me when it comes to the burst damage is the spec of Shadow Priest, which generally likes to drain enemies down slowly over time with a decent setup and fantastic crowd control, but not really amazing instantaneous burst per se. Although with their new tier set, they can actually proc abilities such as Void Bolt at enemies at 200% effectiveness without having to spec into Void Eruption, which means abilities like Dark Ascension can actually synergize with it together, allowing for 20% additional non-periodic damage from those Void Balls, which can be procced with every single Dark Ascension. Plus, Power Infusion allows them to gain 15% more damage, which means that with the right setup, a Shadow Priest can actually achieve some of the greatest burst damage output out there, while retaining a huge portion of their sustain kit, which means that Shadow Priest will likely have a bit more of a bite heading into Season 2. With that being said though, I do want to thank you guys so much for checking out this update, and I do hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give it a like. I would very much appreciate it. Join our Discord community for any future patch 11.1 PTR updates. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.